Hi all, welcome to this live stream moment. So we're slightly early, but we should be okay. So Moment is as you can see, a no-code web app builder, and one thing we proud ourselves on is the cost efficiency and scalability in terms of the backend. So I'm considering of changing the tagline from this to just like build your MVP and then scale it, right? So uh, we don't want our customers to outgrow us. It should cost effectively support our customers that have large applications. Our goal is a million DAU. We're not there yet, but the largest we have hit is about 120K. So that's already pretty big compared to many other solutions. So, in order for us to make something that is difficult to outgrow, um, we spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out like how that can be done, and overall there's no magic bullet. Essentially what you need to do is, can this be any bigger, this thing? Oh yes. Oh, that that immersive thing looks ginormous. Yeah, this may be slightly better. Anyways, so the idea is that you have to architect the whole thing correctly, and you have to have performance and cost in mind every step you go. And that is something I would like to say is not common among most software developers because um, their economics is slightly different from us. Our economics is more closer is more similar to Amazon Web Services than we are to things like Salesforce, right? Because we are a platform. So as a PaaS, platform as a service, um, every cent we save, we get to pass along to our customers multiple times over because we also need margins to survive. Right? So we need to keep our costs down, and that's something we spend a lot of time on. And if you're interested, you can go and look at uh, the link that I just sent in the chat because that kind of just explains the whole thing that like how we save money. So, a couple of ways we charge our customers. One is we charge for functionalities of the tool. That is, white labeling, custom domain, and once you go up to the pro level, payment integration, and multiple front ends, SSO, and more collaborators. So that's one way, but that's only part of the thing. The other part would be any additional cloud resources. So it's either in the forms of database like storage, egress, or CPUs. And CPUs is actually quite important here. So we resell a lot of things in that form. And our goal is, as I said previously, we would like Moment to remain affordable up to 1 million DAU. So, um, let me just explain a little bit in further detail about like how each tier is charged, right? So for the free tier, the idea is that we would like you to have the most, like almost all the experience, and you get one of almost everything, and you have enough storage for you to realize the flexibility and the value of our database, which is one of our one of our main strengths. And yeah, that's basically about it. Nothing special. And then obviously on the free tier, we would have a this logo here so that people know that this thing's built in Momen. And also without a custom domain, the thing on top would say something like villa.momen.app. And once you realize like the value of Momen, then we would like you to graduate to the second tier. And then on the second tier, essentially you get to remove the Momen branding. You get your own custom domain, and then all the functionalities are now open. So you have you can build unlimited number of AI agents. You can have unlimited numbers of a number of action flows, and you can import unlimited number of APIs. And from this level onwards, you can also have a collaborator. So you can share your project with a different person, and that person has edit rights to your project. So you can collaborate, and when you collaborate, the diffs are sent in real time. Well, real time is a strong word, but almost real time, right? So if somebody changes, let's see if I can get, yeah. So it looks like that. So if somebody changes as a collaborator, if somebody changes this thing to be, blah, and this same thing, the same difference will happen here. And if this one undoes the change, then the change disappears. In fact, it's the same technology that we use for live preview, right? So once you have live preview open, what exactly do I have set here? Okay. It probably wouldn't render because it's actually broken because of my, oh, it has hello world. Yeah, I think it wouldn't render because this thing's actually wrong. So interesting. It actually renders. Okay, so what if I put some crazy stuff here, right? And you can see that in the live preview, this would change as well. It's the same technology that we use for syncing changes to the live preview, which we also call mirror. And yeah, so that's that. And also you get all the SEO settings. For example, at that point, for all the text, you can have your different H headers. And for the page, you can have different titles, and you can add even more SEO settings here for TDK and a thumbnail too. Really a fab icon. So that is what we offer at basic level. And then in terms of resources, it's basically about 10 times what you get on free. And we do limit you with the requests per second. You get a 5 requests per second at peak. We are working on queuing that request. Once you exceed it by a certain amount, we plan to do like 3x queuing. So if you have 15 requests, it would process 5 every second, and then the other 10 would actually wait 2 seconds to be processed. Anything over 15 requests, oh hi Josh, anything over 5 requests would then be discarded, and then you would receive an error on the front end saying that essentially it's too many requests error message. And I'll go into like how many rows of database records or how many images this thing can support with a calculator later. Okay, so for the pro thing is really for what I would call commercial applications. By commercial, one of the criteria is you would charge people for it, right? So this thing has native payment integration with Stripe. Although it is possible with a lot of effort on Basic for you to get the payment thing integrated as well. So I'm not going to lie to you, it is possible, right? Because we do have the because you can have a code component, and on the back end you can set up we call callbacks, basically webhooks, right? So with those two, you can basically integrate with all the payments if you want. And the next thing is multiple front ends, right? So a lot of times you want not only a customer facing thing, you also want an internal facing thing, like a portal. It could be an admin portal, it could be a customer portal, and then you have like a publicly facing web page. Very much similar to what Momen is, right? Because imagine if we had like an admin portal for this. We don't, because we built it using code, because that's the editor dot. That's like that's the actual SaaS, and this is just the corporate website, right? So in that case, you would want multiple domains, and the other use case is that you actually have dedicated front end for each customer if they pay you enough, and then you get to share the same database so that it's cheaper. And also sharing data is actually quite important, because in the case of like a publicly facing front end and then customer portals and admin portals, you really want the data to be the same. SSO, so at this level, you would then support, we have pre-built SSO for, by the way, SSO stands for single sign-on. We have pre-built SSO for Google and Facebook, and we also allow you to customize that. You do have permission control in Basic as well, but in Pro, you get to add your own roles. So in addition to the anonymous and logged in user roles, you can have, I don't know, paid users, golden tiered members, or whatnot. And why would you want that? Because when somebody pays you, you may want to offer them different services, right? A customer who has not paid me may not have access to my core functionalities, or may only have 2 tries a month, like a freemium version. So you do need permission control. You need that to be quite advanced as well, and more collaborators. Hey Jojo. And for Pro, we include basically 5 times more resources than Basic, both in terms of requests per second and other cloud resources. So, it's database storage, egress, data outflows, and then you got the file storage as well. Okay, and then enterprise basically just means that you get to dictate whatever you want. We will give you a tailored pricing, and we will charge accordingly. So those are the 4 tiers that Momen gives you. We got the free, the basic, which is white labeling, mostly just that, and pro, which is charging people and having the ability to have multiple front ends, and enterprise, which is just pick your own. You can do quite fancy things with that. So if you're interested, just contact us. The pricing will start approximately like about like $500 plus at least a month, but you do have a lot of options there. Okay, so how do I increase that request per second, right? The only way to increase request per second, if you have a lot of users, simultaneous users especially, is to buy a single tenant kit. What does that actually mean? That means you get to have your own CPU. You don't share an instance, or you don't share a web server, you don't share a database with anyone else. So that means you're free from noisy neighbors, and also the other things, like you don't have what we call action flow timeouts. In any of the shared instances, because we have to ensure service of quality for all the other uh, applications running on that server, there's a limit on how long you can run a action flow, which is 15 seconds. But if you have something that takes particularly long to run, for example, you have to run some kind of month-end process, it might take hours. We support that, but only if you get a single tenant kit. That just means that you don't consume any resources from other people, because you might be that noisy neighbor. Right, so that is that, and also with a single tenant kit, you get unlimited number of automatic action flow runs. So the limitation, I don't think we have updated that here yet, but for those two, you have a limit on how many action flows you can trigger via automatic means, like scheduled, like a scheduled job, or a database trigger. So if you modify something in a database, that can trigger an action flow. Right. So those are there's a limit. I think this thing has like 50,000 or something. But once you go to single tenant, then there's no limit at all. Okay. So how are they different? When 5 RPS is 5 RPS, 25 25, like how does that translate into like real life scenarios, right? So I have built out this little thing. So let me just explain you what this involves. We're simulating 400 simultaneous users. Each one of them, they come in, within, let's make it 20 seconds, right? So within 20 seconds, your number of concurrent users goes from 0 to 400, and they keep running something, and that something is this request, and this request is basically this list. So we'll set that as a home page. This should, yeah. So that's basically this list, right? So, this actually doesn't do anything. I didn't hook up the mutation here. So this thing runs fairly fast, but what if it keeps loading? It runs pretty fast, and what if I have many users doing this, right? So we're simulating a bunch of 400 simultaneous users looking at this page. And some assumptions that I make is, on average, they would trigger a new load every 3 seconds. And it's a bit random because people work in different speeds, and then we're using a Poisson distribution, and the offset is, the spread is like 2 seconds, right? So you have a Poisson distribution between 1 second and 5 seconds. Basically, it's like randomly distributed between those two ends. Okay, and we'll clear this up. We will run this now, and the request, it is exactly the same as this, and then we have a ID change. Oh, the list, by the way, I forgot to show you. The list itself has 100,000 items. That's the same list I used in a previous live stream. I just imported a bunch of them, yeah, it has like 100,000 of them. So what I did here is I picked a random number between 1 and 100,000, and that's basically the query we'll run. So let's start this thing, and let's see, and you can see the number of thread increasing. That's simulating the number of users coming into your website. So we are now at 200. It should keep going up. Within 20 seconds, it would reach 400. Now that's all the users that they are active. And this thing is basically you're just looking at it. It doesn't really help. And here is the the actual summary page, right? So average means the number of milliseconds it takes on average for each request to go back to the user. So we're looking at 150 milliseconds, so that's 1/7 of a second. And the max is half a second, so the slowest query took half a second. And because we don't really have that much load in here, we're looking at just 60 requests per second. That's just because we don't have that many users, right? So it's fairly simple. It's fairly low load, I would say. In this case, this piece of cake. 400 users, if they on average perform one request every 3 seconds, that's like at most like 100 requests per second. But since they have to wait for the request to return before they start the next one, so it actually is lower load than you thought it would involve. So it will keep running. I'll let it run for, I don't know, 3 minutes. I think I let it run for 3 minutes. So while this thing is running, we will load this page again so we can see it, like how slow it makes this entire thing. I should really start it off here and go. What did I make? Because that's the home page. Why? Funny. Why is it not? Let me just. Okay, so that works. Let me get rid of the errors, and then we can publish, and then we can try it again. So you can see, like, while 400 other people are using, how fast or slow things are. This is not very happy. We probably have an action that's wrong. Okay, set page data. We'll just remove this. That's fine. Now this guy has data that's empty. So let's just set it to something. Okay, now we're good. Oh, it's actually out now. So I didn't need to do all that. Is it still running? It's done. So let's keep it running so that we can see a difference, right? And once we scroll down to the bottom, 143 milliseconds, it doesn't feel any slower than it otherwise would have been without any additional load. It's running 2 of those requests. That's funny. To do item list. Yeah, so it's running 2 of those lists. I think that's a issue with, so we actually running it triggering 2 requests every time. Oh no, just 1. That's my problem. Yeah, just 1. Yeah, and then you can see it's like 150 milliseconds. It doesn't really make it any slower compared to when things are not running and there's no load at all, right? So that's that. And the other thing I would like to show you is the cost spreadsheet. So I have made a Momen cost spreadsheet, and I'll send it out on the chat. We will include that at the description of the live stream as well. So let's make some crazy assumptions, right? So imagine if we have 5,000 daily active users, and at the peak, half of them are simultaneously online. So that determines how many requests they're going to make. And we're making, each user is making a request every 5 seconds. You can change this to, every 3 seconds, like what we have in the simulated load that we have here with JMeter. And other things like we have to imagine for each unique page, we have 10 images. Right? Why unique? Because if you visit the same page twice, we don't actually load the same image twice. So if you look at this, I refresh, right? Most of the images are coming from disk cache. So it doesn't actually go to the internet. So this consumes no bandwidth at all. And if you go back to like the Momen, homepage, again, most of the images are already cached on disk, so there is no additional consumption in terms of bandwidth. Right, so that is why we stick with that's bubbles. That's why we stick with images per unique page. For the same unique page, you don't actually spend extra bandwidth. So 10 images per unique page. Each user visits 5 unique pages every day. You can change those things, right? So average image size 200 kilobytes. So those concern the egress, the amount of bandwidth you're going to use. Table count. So let's imagine you have 30 tables, which is a fairly large project. And we are assuming that you have a million row per table. And each row is 200 bytes. And the bloat factor is something that is very specific to Postgres. It's the database that we use. So if you modify something or you delete something, it actually introduces bloat. So you can imagine them once you update something, that thing becomes garbage. What really happens underneath is you inserted the new row and mark the old row as garbage, and that gets collected from time to time. But usually you end up with a certain bloat factor. So 3 is a fairly large bloat factor. And also you have to account for things like indices, which we create for you to speed up searches. And then, this is just some number. Imagine you had 2,000 images stored in the site. Okay, so what does that give us? That means at the peak, you have 825 requests per second. Each month, you're gonna load 7.5 million. Your users are gonna download 7.5 million images, which translates to 1. Well, so that's that's 000. Oh, that's actually larger. So let's make it bigger. So that's 1.5 terabytes of outflow, which it may sound like a lot. So we'll see how much it costs us. The database is going to be large, so it's 18 gigabytes. And the object storage is not too bad at only 400 megabytes because you only have 2,000 images. But let's say if we change this to something bigger, 200,000 images, then you're looking at 40 gigabytes of object storage. Okay. So I have broken down the cost for both basic and pro. So for basic, you get with your plan this amount of cloud resources. So let's make it like slightly bigger. And maybe just delete this. Okay. I think this will fit. Yeah, make it fit in a single screen because these are pretty big numbers we're dealing with. Okay, here we go. So this is additional RPS we're going to need. And the only way you can get RPS is by getting a single tenant kit. Approximately, we can do about 150 per second, which is very performant, by the way, if you ask anybody. For a single core, that's a lot of performance you're getting. And that just translates to like 7 of them. And then for, 6 of them. You need 6 single tenant kit to support 820 additional RPS. And then in terms of object storage, you don't need anything additional because you already have the single tenant kits will give you object storage as well. It gives you 50 gigabytes per 50 gigabyte per single tenant kit. So that's more than enough to cover for your 200,000 images. Outflow, yes, you will need an additional 1.2 terabytes of outflow. And in terms of database, because of what you already have and what you get from the 6 single tenant kits, which has 2 gigabytes each, you're still short on, well, 5 or 6 gigabytes ish of database. Right? And then once you consider all that, the additional cost for the additional cloud storage and all the stuff, it comes out to 720 for a single tenant kit and about $130 for both the outflow and database per month. So your monthly cost comes out to 800 something. So so what are we talking about here is for $886. Well, the Pro is very similar. It just offers a little bit more at the beginning, but and also it costs about like $60 more. So that's basically the difference in cost. So you are looking at a 5,000 DAU app with a very high peak simultaneous simultaneous user ratio, right? So this, in layman's words, that means within those 5,000 people, half of them are simultaneous online at the same exact same time. So if we change this to something more realistic, we go down to 500 peak, and you can see that drastically reduces the cost that you have to bear. And operations per second, that's a fairly normal thing. That's like human speed, once every 3 seconds. Images per unique page, okay, maybe that's pretty normal, but maybe we visit more unique pages, so 10 unique pages, you're gonna pay for more outflow at this point. And in fact, this is still an overestimate because depending on your browser's settings or its own built-in strategy, on the second day that you come back, it may still have these images cached. So it's still, you still don't have to fetch it from the what we call the CDN. You still don't go to the CDN. So we still don't charge you. We only charge you if it actually incurred outflow on our side. And this is also very big, right? A normal application does not have 1,000,000 rows per table for all the 30 tables. So a more realistic thing might be 100,000. On average, you might have a few that's like 5-6 million, but most of them are a few hundred. So on average, let's say we're looking at 100,000 or maybe 200,000, because 200,000 gives you like 6 million in total rows. And average row size, this is large, but not too large. That's like each row contains a little paragraph. Actually, it's slightly less than a paragraph, like 2 sentences. But most of the time, they just contain a few numbers and a boolean or something. A bloat factor looks about right. Image count, yeah, we could say that's the thing. Now, with these changes, now you're down to like $400, and you might even increase this to 50,000. And in terms of peak, maybe it's actually still lower. 1/20th of them are simultaneously online, and the images, you can always make them smaller, and yeah. So what we did support, as I said, we did support something that had 120,000 users per day, but that wasn't even per day, it was per morning. So in real life, that costed the operator 4 single tenant kits. And we have another example where they had 46,000 daily active users, and in this case, it was covered by 2 single tenant kits. Obviously, they still had to pay extra for the outflow. Their database wasn't very large, so that wasn't a problem. But this is the idea of like how much money it costs to run things on Moment, and the outflow really, there's not much we can do about it because we're basically just passing on the cost to you. Outflow, AWS charges us for the outflow. Okay, and then if we looking at something that's somewhat smaller, say you have 100 DAU, and they 25 of them are always online, and they look at 20 unique pages, and their database may not be this large, maybe 100K, and yeah, image count maybe not so much, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so with this assumption, the cost on Pro is actually lower on Basic because you get something in addition when you pay for the Pro, and you don't even need a single tenant kit in here because 100 users at who's doing one operation every 3 seconds translates to 8.25 RPS, and that's actually below the 25 RPS on Pro. So you don't even need a single tenant kit, you just need to buy additional storage. So that's like $120 or $112 per the user, and that's including the plan cost. So this is going to be much cheaper than, say, Bubble plus Xano, because Xano itself, if you go to launch, that's already 85, and if you get another Bubble thing, that will get you that will run you, I don't know, 160 or something. Okay, so how does this compare to Bubble? So let's do something, do something similar. We'll have similar things here. DAU 100, and pages per user is, well, we don't charge you for pages per user because that's not something we charge for. So let's say, what did I have? 20 unique pages, right? In a SaaS, you probably visit, let's say, the same page, 5 times. So that'll be 100 pages per user. The others, we're not going to change row size to 200, I think. Actually, that's not true for them because Bubble stores things very differently than we do. They would have lists of things in their row. We don't. Rows per search, okay, 10. Okay, that's not something we charge for either, so that's moot in the comparison. We don't charge for aggregations or groups, so that's moot as well. Deletes per DAU, yeah, that's about right. Updates, let's say, what are they looking at? 100 pages, so let's make them to 100 updates. And they charge you for the trigger. We do charge you for trigger unless you're on single tenant, in which case we don't. So that's that. And then the update for those we're not going to change. Workflows per DAU 30 sounds about right. Okay, so that comes out to $164. But if we look at large numbers, right? Say, we do 5,000 of them, and yeah, that's already $8,000. So when we do like a 5,000 here, so apples to apples comparison, you're looking at $800. And if you do something similar in Bubble, you're looking at $8,000. So that's a 1 to 10 price difference. Feel free to challenge all the assumptions, and both of these spreadsheets are public, so you can copy, you make your own clone and change all the assumptions, and it should give you the numbers. And I might have something that's not entirely correct, but um, either case, it won't be too off. I think this thing is slightly off. I should change this because once you move to RPS, once you move to, no, I should get rid of this. No, I think this thing is slightly wrong. Everything else is correct to my knowledge. Okay, so yeah, so that's basically the cost difference that we have with Bubble. Other than that, I don't think I have much more to share. Do you guys have any questions regarding anything? Well, mostly regarding costs. I can go into more depth. So while you guys are coming up with your questions, things that I would like to talk about is the other thing we're trying to do is these images. 200K is not small. Right, so if we refresh Moments thing, let's see how big they are. Let's disable cache and just run it again. The other thing I can show you is like how much it actually costs us in terms of like how much outflow Moments website itself has. Right, so let's look at this, right? So we have these images that, oh, holy crap, somebody, oh, okay. So that's actually a very big um, animated image. That's a WebP. But down here, everything is like just a couple bytes. Why are they different? They should be the same. Yeah, it's the same image. It's downloaded more. Oh, it's probably because I disabled cache. Otherwise, it would be just downloaded once. So how much does Moment cost us if we were to pay ourselves? Um, this is Moment's log. You guys can see it now as well. It is in here. I know it's a horrible place to put the log, but it's here. We will move this whole drawer into the project itself, so you don't have to come out and look at it. But it is here. So once you click it, you will see. Oh, by the way, this guy here. These are our. Let's do last hour. Yeah, these were the load tests that we did. You can see the number of requests. How to animate. Yeah, we can. It's fairly simple. I'm pretty bad at it, but it's fairly simple. It's basically just. I think it's in. There's a here. You can do mouse hover and then some things. And the thing that scrolls into view is basically just get rid of that, and then you go like when scrolling into view, appear from left. I'm shit at setting it up, but I'm sure. Let's do do this thing. But does something. Yeah, you can see that now, right? It's already here, but it's fairly simple to set up. Back to the cost issue. Um, how much does Moment cost us? Right. So we only enabled logs since um, not too long ago, actually in November. Right. So Moment for every day would it gets visited by a few hundred, if not 1,000 users. The cost of Moment is, where are we? Can't find my own thing. View details, usage details, and we go usage. And ignore October. There's something wrong with the accounting, but on average, we consume about 300 gigabytes per month for Moment. And that translates to, if we go to pricing, that translates to like, you know, 35 divided by 500 times 300 is like $21. That's how much it costs us in terms of data outflow for a moment. And I should have a number of like unique visitors per day for a moment, but I don't have that numbers handy. But you can kind of deduce that from the logs, the number of log entries. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? I think that's that. We spent $21. That's actually less than I thought we would spend. We spent $21 on our own outflow. And the other thing is, we'll talk about logs soon as well. We currently don't. We only have the gateway, so the network requests, but and then you can have like saved queries. But we'll have the action flow logs very soon. The guy's almost done with dev, and databases should come out slightly after that, and then you can have all the logs you need access to, and you can search for different things. For example, you could say I want some is maybe I want this. I think this would work. Does it work? Yes, it works. Yeah, so it only has channel, insert channel. It doesn't have anything else. Right, so, and it's fairly fast too. I mean, it took like a second to search within a bunch of logs. Okay, I think that's all I want to talk about, unless you guys have further questions. Okay, thank you so much all for coming and sticking with me talking about pricing. The goal for Moment is to be, affordable and effective, effectively support our users up to 1 million DAU, as I said. And above which, you should really hire your own engineering team. Thank you very much, and goodbye.